Hey everyone, I'm Gary Dingus, Director of National Content for Gatehouse Media, and we are joined today by Ben Dieter from the Columbus Dispatch. We're going to talk about bag bans. A lot of cities have banned bags, plastic bags in particular, in recent years, citing environmental concerns. And in Ohio, some of the state legislators are actually talking about undoing those bans potentially. Ben, you want to fill us in on what's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. So where we are right now in Ohio is we have a few localities. Usually, it's really kind of localized to the Cleveland and Columbus area. Bowling Green's City Council, which is kind of near Toledo, just approved one. But they're all kind of banning bags within their own communities, and they've partnered with businesses on these to just ensure that it addresses a lot of the concerns for a wide variety of constituencies in their communities. But what we're seeing right now in the legislature is what I'm affectionately referring to as the bag ban, which is designed to it's pitched as a streamline of taxation across the state, prohibiting localities from putting any kind of tax, fee, other charge, or assessment. That's the language in the bill itself. They're preventing localities from doing that. And it really is kind of motivated a little bit by manufacturing concerns. We do have a lot of plastic manufacturers in Ohio. In fact, one of the chief sponsors of the bill lives down in southwestern Ohio, and he has a plant like that in his district. And from covering this and going to committee hearings about this bill, you kind of realize that the more environmental questions aren't really moving lawmakers. We have a very, very Republican legislature in Ohio, and they're not moved at all by any kind of environmental argument, at least in committee. What is a little more interesting about this, though, is there's a constitutional question here. Ohio is a home rule state, meaning that localities and municipal governments retain a lot of power of self-government. And the state in the past, like by Ohio Supreme Court rulings, has retained some power to limit the taxing authority of cities and local governments. But the language in the bill of fees and other charges is pretty unclear. So there is some serious potential in Ohio to see a court challenge to some of these bills from communities like Bexley or Cuyahoga County or Bowling Green, who want to retain their bans that they've instated already.
Yeah, we had a similar situation here in Texas. We're based in Austin, and City of Austin in 2013 implemented a plastic bag ban. And in 2018, the state Supreme Court struck down a similar bag ban in Laredo, and that prompted Austin and a number of other cities to stop with the bag bans. How are the businesses in the cities in Ohio that have bag bans, how are businesses dealing with that? How are consumers dealing with that?
I mean, this has been a very across the board effort in these communities. Bexley's mayor in particular has been very outspoken about it in terms of the environmental concern and what citizens are seeing as, just trash being all over their communities. That was a pretty heavy theme, at least in his testimony, but they partnered with businesses to ensure that it's more of a kind of a gradual like phase out almost for everyone in the community. I know in Washington D.C. I've spent some time there. They have like a specific fee tied to plastic bags. I'm not sure of the specifics of Cuyahoga County and Bexley, but they are kind of it's more of an ease into it. It's not just a sudden stop on plastic bags like entirely. They very much are aware of the business concerns and the cost of switching to plastic bags and the ease of access that they've had for this commodity that they've been dealing with for years and years.
Yeah, I mean, here in Austin, what we saw when we did have the bag ban from 2013 to 2018 was stores were either shifting to paper bags. Some of them were free. Some stores were charging. I know Target was charging a dime for each paper bag that they gave you. And then other stores, including H-E-B, which is our big grocer here, they weren't giving bags out at all. So you had to go with reusable bags. They had some kind of cheap, but plastic ones that were legal because they could be used more than once, bags that were a quarter each. And HEB still, now that the bag ban is gone, still giving bags out. A lot of the other stores have gone back to giving plastic bags. Target dumped the paper bags, and you can get a plastic bag there. But like you were saying, the concern that prompted this in the first place here was environmental issues. People were saying that they were finding plastic bags everywhere. You'd go out on the green belt or you'd go out to the lake and they would see bags everywhere. And the city claimed they had a 75% reduction in plastic bag litter as a result of the ban. Like you were saying, wasn't an all-out ban. Certain types of plastic bags were still allowed, like your newspaper could still come in a plastic bag, things like that. If this passes, if this gets through the legislature, what do you think these cities are going to do? Is a workaround possible, or are they just going to have to give up?
I certainly think that they could potentially find a way to work around it, especially like the court challenge I alluded to. That is very much still a possibility. There's the Ohio Legislative Service Commission, which serves the legislature and analyzes every single bill, included just a comment about that constitutional question, whether the state actually has the power to prevent any kind of fee or charge. Because as far as I understand now, none of these bans that are in place in communities are taxing, at least like consumers or businesses. At least as far as I understand it, it's more in the fee and other charge type assessment area, which could stamp on home rule authority. So I think the likely challenge would probably be via the court. And I mean, these are popular initiatives. These are across the community. People are for these bans. So I imagine that people will continue to not use plastic bags themselves anyway, especially in places like Bexley and Cuyahoga County, which have already instituted their bans and have lived with them for at least a few weeks.
Now, is this part of a bigger trend that you guys are seeing in Ohio, where the state is kind of trying to undo some of the legislation in individual cities that they may not like? That's what happened here in Texas. Another ordinance that Austin passed required all employers to offer paid sick leave. The legislature was pretty eager to undo that one. Or is this just kind of a one-off issue from what you've seen?
No, this is more the latest iteration, sort of. I talked with an interest group, the Ohio Municipal League, which is essentially just the like big local government, if you will, just the big government kind of lobby and advocacy group in Columbus. And they've said that this is coming on the heels of more and more local government policies that the state has just kind of decided it doesn't like. I'm not too familiar. I know we have plenty of coverage on the Columbus Dispatch's website that my colleagues on public affairs have done on the specifics of those, but I can't recall them all specifically right now.
Sure. Before I let you go, anything else about this that you think is worth pointing out?
I think, especially in an environment where climate change is increasingly becoming a part of the conversation around the environment, you're seeing more from Republican lawmakers, at least in Ohio. They've questioned people about the fact that we are not the ones who are putting the most trash into the world. They're pointing the finger elsewhere, places in Asia and Africa, and it's sort of becoming a new fad, like fashion, essentially, to point the finger elsewhere and use that as justification for not doing anything environmentally. That may very well just be localized to plastic bags, but I think it's something we're seeing more on a national level, and I think this is an example of that on the state and local level for sure.
Good deal. Ben Dieter from the Columbus Dispatch. You can read his coverage of this at dispatch.com. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.